Hey everybody, Dan Gogler here, just reviewing Kevin Leimeister's e-portfolio form. Kevin and I actually work together, so we've been kind of working together on this portfolio and some other things throughout the whole course. So this review is actually also a culmination of a lot of the stuff we talked about throughout the entire course. Like I said, since we do work together, I get a chance to see him pretty much every day, and we bounced ideas off of each other. It made it really nice to be able to have somebody there and look at something and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he did the same thing with me. So some of these things have changed throughout this whole entire course. Some of these things have just changed recently, but it's more of a critique, like I said, throughout the whole entire process. So I'm here at Kevin's intro page for his portfolio. And like I said, I'm just going to talk about some of the strengths I noticed as he was creating it and as I began looking through it. So when you look through it, I really like his color scheme. If you look at his preview here, everything's laid out exactly how it should be. Everything's nice and organized. At this point, if I click on really any of these, everything is pretty much in there at this point, especially since we're near the end. And that's why I waited for the critique. Um, all the pieces are pretty much in place. It's pretty much ready to publish at this point and ready to send out and go into his basically his comps. I also like the fact that Kevin does a great job, and this might be because he's a math teacher. He does a great job with backing almost everything up in here with data. So if you go into certain things, like his whole professional development plan that I clicked on, if I go into it, he talks so much about surveys that he did, so much about basically feedback that he tried to get from the other educators in the building, and he went through and did a lot of this stuff, and that's how he basically set up his plan, but also how he's going to move forward. And I think that's a great philosophy to have. So I thought that was a big strength that he basically had throughout the whole thing, was that data driven, data backed, providing feedback and basically building everything off of that. When I look at some of the stuff that might have also been a little bit stronger, I love the fact that he does use tons and tons of different sources, tons of different media, different outlets. He really mixes it up. When I went into his extra resources and clicked on them, you'll notice such a wide variety of different tools in here that he uses along the way. And I think that's kind of nice when you're looking over, somebody else's portfolio. You want to see a wide variety of different things, and Kevin did a great job. Even in his article summaries, he's going to so many different sources to pull information from, and that's something I talk about in my classroom. Pulling a wide variety of sources. When I look at his some of the stuff that we had to talk about and say, hey, let's change throughout the thing. If you went through and looked at his extra resources early on, um, he did not have very many of these ISTE standards linked in here. So that was one of the things I had mentioned early on to him is, hey, Kevin, you might want to add these ISTE standards, and I would probably add them to every extra resource, all your training videos. And if you go in there and look at them now, he's done that, especially since, like I said, he's near the end. But that was something that he had kind of forgotten. And after mentioning, he was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely need to link way more of those." I think at the time when I was looking at it, he might only had like two or three. I don't know that it wasn't that he was not going to do it or that he just hadn't gotten around to it yet. I think was more the case, but it was something we had definitely talked about, which was great. I'd say my other critique is if you look at his professional development plan again, one of the big things Kevin talks about a lot is a tool we both use in classrooms, and that's Edulastic. Um, and it's a great tool. He talks about really utilizing it and pushing it within his plan. But the problem is, and my one critique is if you go through any extra resources, presentations, face training, he talks about it in one of the videos that we collaborated on. But there's just not much about it. I guess I would have loved to see a couple more ways he uses it, especially in extra resources. I thought it would have been a great spot to kind of put it in, just as an example. Um, that he went through. Even though we basically worked together along the way. I did learn, quite a bit from looking through his portfolio. One of the cool things, he's got a pictograph in here, uh, picto chart, I should say, that I thought was really neat. I hadn't used one before, and he, basically put that in there, and I honestly see that as being something I'm probably going to use at the beginning of the year with my students next year to just kind of, talk about basically, protocol, classroom protocols, expectations, things like that. I think it'd be a cool way to really incorporate that into the beginning of the year. We had, even though we had some overlap um, in our portfolios because we do work together in some of the videos we collaborated on, I feel like we're so different in the way we designed our portfolio and the way we put stuff out there and the way we use our sources even. That it was nice to go through and look at this, well-designed portfolio and kind of get some, ideas myself along the way of how I should change, how I should adjust. And that was a big factor for me. Just helping him, and him helping me along the way made this process, I think, a lot easier. So overall, I'd say Kevin did an awesome job. Um, and look through his portfolio. Even those small things that we talked about, he's already went in and fixed a lot of them, and critiqued himself along the way, and even bounced ideas off of me. So overall, just a great job, and I think you're really going to like his finished result. So thanks, guys.